You're about to send an important email at work. Your finger hovers over the send button. You've proofread it 3 times already, but something makes you read it one more time. Maybe the tone is wrong. Maybe you're missing something obvious. Maybe you sound incompetent. Or picture this. You're in a meeting and you have an idea that could solve the problem everyone's discussing, but you stay quiet. What if it's a stupid suggestion? What if everyone's already thought of it? What if speaking up just reveals how little you actually know? Here's one more. You post something on social media, something you worked on, something you're proud of. Then you immediately start checking for reactions. Each minute without a like feels like confirmation. You were right to doubt yourself. It wasn't good enough after all. If any of these scenarios feel familiar, you're not broken. You're not lacking confidence that other people magically possess. You're experiencing something that affects over 70% of people at some point in their lives, according to research from psychologist Jarawan Sokolku at the University of Texas. That something is self-doubt. And here's what almost no one tells you about it. Self-doubt isn't a flaw in your psychology. It's a feature of human cognition that served our ancestors well for millions of years. The problem isn't that you experience self-doubt. The problem is that you're experiencing the wrong kind of self-doubt at the wrong times, about the wrong things. Once you learn to spot the difference, everything changes. Here's how we're going to do that. First, we'll break down the 4 hidden ways self-doubt actually shows up in your daily life, because most people only recognize the obvious forms. Then, we'll explore the surprising evolutionary and neurological reasons why your brain generates doubt in the first place. This isn't feel-good psychology. This is actual neuroscience. But most importantly, we'll dive into 6 practical strategies you can start using today to transform self-doubt from a paralyzing force into a tool for better decision-making and genuine growth. These aren't generic confidence tips. They're specific techniques backed by cognitive psychology research that work even if you've struggled with self-doubt your entire life. By the end, you'll understand exactly why self-doubt happens, how to distinguish productive doubt from destructive doubt, and how to rewire your relationship with uncertainty. You won't eliminate self-doubt, but you'll learn to make it work for you instead of against you. Before we go further, let's ground this in actual research. Psychologist Albert Bandura at Stanford University spent decades studying what he called self-efficacy, which is essentially your belief in your to succeed at specific tasks. His research showed that self-doubt isn't random. It follows predictable patterns based on your past experiences, your observations of others, and the feedback you receive. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux at New York University has demonstrated that our brains are wired with threat detection systems that operated long before we developed the capacity for rational thought. These systems generate doubt as a protective mechanism. They're not trying to sabotage you. They're trying to keep you safe. More recently, psychologist Kristin Neff at the University of Texas has shown through multiple studies that how we respond to self-doubt matters far more than whether we experience it. Her research on self-compassion reveals that people who treat their doubts with curiosity rather than criticism actually perform better and experience less anxiety. And organizational psychologist Adam Grant at the University of Pennsylvania has found that successful people don't lack self-doubt. They've simply learned to doubt different things than unsuccessful people doubt. They question their strategies, not their worth. That distinction changes everything. Let's break down how self-doubt actually shows up in your life. Because most people think self-doubt is just one thing, when it's actually several distinct patterns that require different approaches. The first form is competence doubt. This is when you question whether you're actually good at something. You look at your work and can't tell if it's decent or terrible. You compare yourself to others and assume they're more skilled, more knowledgeable, more naturally talented. Research from psychologist Carl Jung at Stanford University shows that this type of doubt intensifies when you believe ability is fixed rather than developable. You see your struggles as evidence of permanent limitation rather than temporary challenge. This form of doubt makes you hesitate before taking on new responsibilities. It makes you over-prepare for simple tasks because you can't trust your baseline competence. The second form is decision doubt. You make a choice, then immediately start second-guessing it. Should you have taken the other job? Should you have said yes instead of no? Should you have chosen the blue one instead of the red one? Psychologist Barry Schwartz at Swarthmore College found that having more options actually increases this type of doubt because we can always imagine that one of the paths we didn't take would have been better. Decision doubt keeps you stuck in analysis paralysis. It makes you avoid making choices altogether. And it robs you of the ability to commit fully to the path you've chosen because part of your mind is always wondering about the alternative. The third form is worthiness doubt. This goes deeper than competence. This is when you question whether you deserve good things, whether you belong in the room you're in, whether the success you've achieved is legitimate or just luck. Psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes first identified this pattern in high-achieving individuals in the 1970s, and subsequent research has shown it affects people across all demographics and achievement levels. Worthiness doubt makes you attribute your successes to external factors and your failures to internal flaws. You dismiss compliments as politeness. You expect to be exposed as a fraud at any moment. This form of doubt can persist even as evidence of your competence accumulates, because the doubt isn't really about what you can do. It's about who you are. The fourth form is social doubt. This is when you question how others perceive you. You replay conversations looking for moments where you might have said the wrong thing. You interpret neutral faces as disapproval. You assume silence means judgment. Research from psychologist Mark Leary at Duke University shows that humans have what he calls a sociometer, which is basically a mental system that constantly monitors our social acceptance. Social doubt is this system in overdrive. It makes you edit yourself in real time. It makes authentic connection difficult because you're too busy managing your image to actually be present, and it creates a painful cycle where your anxiety about being judged actually makes you behave in ways that invite the judgment you fear. So why do we experience these forms of doubt in the first place? Let's look at the evolutionary, neurological, and social mechanisms at work. From an evolutionary perspective, self-doubt is a survival feature. Our ancestors lived in environments where overconfidence could get you killed. If you were too certain about your ability to fight that predator or cross that river or eat that plant, you might not survive long enough to pass on your genes. Evolutionary psychologists point out that the humans who survived weren't the most confident ones. They were the ones who doubted enough to exercise caution, but not so much that they froze in fear. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio at the University of Southern California has shown that our brains use prediction error signals to learn and adapt. Essentially, your brain makes predictions about what will happen, then compares those predictions to reality. When there's a mismatch, that creates a signal that something needs attention. Self-doubt is often your brain flagging a prediction error. You predicted you'd know what to do in this situation, but you don't feel certain. That gap between expected confidence and actual confidence triggers the doubt response. Here's where it gets interesting. Research in cognitive neuroscience shows that your brain can't easily distinguish between physical threats and social threats. The same neural circuits that would activate if you encountered a dangerous animal also activate when you imagine being humiliated or rejected. So when you feel self-doubt before speaking up in a meeting, your brain is essentially treating potential embarrassment with the same seriousness it would treat physical danger. That's not irrational. It's just outdated wiring trying to protect you from a modern threat. There's also a social learning component. Psychologist Albert Bandura found that we develop self-efficacy beliefs partly through what he called vicarious experiences. Watching how things go for people similar to us. If you grew up seeing people like you succeed, your baseline self-belief tends to be higher. If you grew up seeing people like you fail or struggle, or if you rarely saw people like you attempt certain things at all, your doubt levels tend to be higher. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about the evidence your brain has collected about what's possible for someone with your characteristics. Cultural factors matter too. Anthropologist Hazel Marcus at Stanford University has studied how different cultures shape self-concepts. In cultures that emphasize individual achievement and standing out, doubt about your unique abilities creates particular anxiety. In cultures that emphasize fitting in and maintaining harmony, doubt about your social standing creates more distress. The content of your doubt is partly culturally determined. And finally, there's the metacognitive trap. This is doubt about your doubt. Psychologist Adrian Wells at the University of Manchester has researched what happens when we not only feel uncertain, but also judge ourselves for feeling uncertain. When you think, I shouldn't be doubting myself, or confident people don't feel this way, you're adding a second layer of distress on top of the original doubt. This metacognitive layer often causes more suffering than the initial doubt itself. Now let's get practical. Here are 6 research-backed strategies for working with self-doubt instead of against it. These aren't about eliminating doubt. They're about changing your relationship with it. Strategy 1. Distinguish between doubt and catastrophizing. Self-doubt says, I'm not sure if this will work. Catastrophizing says, this will definitely fail, and it will be humiliating. Research from psychologist David Burns at Stanford University shows that most people conflate uncertainty with negative certainty. They experience the feeling of not knowing and immediately jump to assuming the worst outcome. Here's how to practice the distinction. When you notice doubt, pause and identify what you're actually uncertain about. Write it down if you need to. Then ask yourself what you're predicting will happen. If your prediction includes words like definitely, always, never, or everyone, you've shifted from doubt into catastrophizing. Actual doubt sounds more like, I'm not sure about X, or I don't know if Y will work. Catastrophizing sounds like, X will definitely be terrible, or everyone will think I'm incompetent. Once you've identified which one you're experiencing, you can respond appropriately. Doubt requires gathering more information or accepting uncertainty. Catastrophizing requires challenging the distorted predictions. Strategy 2. Build what psychologists call discriminant self-efficacy. This comes from Albert Bandura's research on self-efficacy. Most people treat self-doubt as a global judgment. I doubt myself. But Bandura found that efficacy is domain-specific. You can be highly confident in one area and genuinely uncertain in another. That's not inconsistent. That's accurate self-assessment. Here's the practice. When you experience self-doubt, get specific about the domain. Instead of, I doubt I can handle this, ask, what specific aspect of this am I uncertain about? Maybe you're confident in the technical skills, but uncertain about the interpersonal dynamics. Maybe you're confident in your ideas, but uncertain about your presentation skills. This specificity is powerful for 2 reasons. First, it often reveals that your doubt is narrower than it feels. You're not incompetent at everything. You're uncertain about one specific element. Second, it tells you exactly what to focus on. You can't work on being more confident, but you can work on improving specific skills in specific domains. Strategy 3. Use pre-mortems for decision doubt. Psychologist Gary Klein developed this technique for organizational decision-making, but it works beautifully for personal decisions too. When you're facing a choice and drowning in second-guessing, here's what you do. Instead of trying to feel certain about which option is right, imagine you've chosen option A, and it's 6 months later, and things went poorly. Write down all the reasons why. Be specific. Then imagine you chose option B and things went poorly. Write down those reasons. This technique works because it externalizes the doubt. Instead of experiencing it as vague anxiety, you're making concrete predictions that you can evaluate. Often you'll notice that the feared outcomes are either unlikely or manageable, or you'll identify which option has risks you're more prepared to handle. The goal isn't to eliminate uncertainty. It's to transform unclear dread into clear trade-offs. Strategy 4. Practice self-compassionate self-doubt. This comes directly from Kristin Neff's research. When you experience doubt, your internal response usually sounds something like, "What's wrong with me?" Or, "I should be better at this by now." That critical voice doesn't reduce doubt. It compounds it. Here's the alternative. When you notice self-doubt, acknowledge it with the same tone you'd use with a friend. "This is hard for me right now. I'm not sure how this will go." That's okay. Research shows this isn't just feel-good language. It actually changes your physiological stress response. When you treat yourself with compassion, your body shifts from a threat state to a safe state. That shift allows your prefrontal cortex to come back online, which means better decision-making and problem-solving. The practice is simple. Notice doubt. Acknowledge it without judgment. Remind yourself that uncertainty is part of being human. Then ask what you need to move forward despite the doubt, not what you need to eliminate it. Strategy 5. Collect micro-evidence of competence. This addresses worthiness doubt. Psychologist Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania found that people prone to self-doubt often have what he calls a pessimistic explanatory style. They notice and remember failures, but dismiss or forget successes. They attribute success to luck and failure to their fundamental inadequacy. The solution isn't positive thinking, it's evidence collection. Here's the practice. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you did competently, not 3 things that went perfectly, not 3 major achievements, just 3 ordinary moments where you handled something adequately. You resolved a minor problem. You helped someone. You completed a task. The specificity matters. "I helped Sarah figure out the scheduling issue" is more powerful than "I was helpful today." Do this daily for 4 weeks. Research on neuroplasticity by neuroscientist Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin shows that consistent attention to positive evidence literally changes brain structure over time. You're training your brain to notice competence with the same vigilance it currently brings to noticing inadequacy. Strategy 6. Externalize social doubt through reality testing. When you're stuck in social doubt, asking yourself, "Are they judging me?" doesn't help because your anxious brain will answer, "Yes, definitely." Instead, you need external data. Psychologist David Burns suggests a technique called reality testing. When you're convinced someone thinks poorly of you, identify what specific evidence you have. "She didn't smile when I said hello" is evidence. "She thinks I'm annoying" is interpretation. Once you've separated evidence from interpretation, you can generate alternative explanations. Maybe she didn't smile because she was preoccupied. Maybe she didn't hear you. Maybe she's having a bad day. The goal isn't to convince yourself that everyone likes you. The goal is to recognize that you don't actually know what others think unless they tell you explicitly. And here's the advanced version. Sometimes you can just ask, "Hey, I felt like that conversation got awkward. Did I say something that bothered you?" This feels terrifying, but research shows that directness about uncertainty usually strengthens relationships rather than damaging them. People respect authentic checking more than anxious guessing. Strategy 7. Reframe doubt as useful data. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant makes a crucial distinction in his research. Successful people experience what he calls confident humility. They're confident in their capacity to learn and improve while remaining humble about their current level of knowledge. They treat self-doubt not as evidence of inadequacy, but as a signal pointing to areas for growth or caution. Here's how to practice this reframe. When you experience doubt about your competence, ask, what is this doubt telling me I need to learn or prepare? When you experience doubt about a decision, ask, what information am I missing that would help me choose more wisely? When you experience doubt about your worth, ask, what values matter to me that I want to honor, regardless of how confident I feel? This transforms doubt from an enemy to be defeated into a messenger bringing useful information. You might be doubting yourself before a presentation because you actually do need to practice more. That's not a character flaw. That's helpful guidance. You might be doubting a decision because you're missing key information. That's not overthinking. That's wisdom flagging an incomplete analysis. Strategy 8. Create what psychologists call commitment loops. This final strategy comes from research on implementation intentions by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer at New York University. When doubt makes you want to quit or avoid something important, commit to a specific minimum action, regardless of how you feel. Not, I'll work on this until I feel confident, which might never happen. But, I'll spend 20 minutes on this every morning for 1 week, and then I'll evaluate. This works because it removes the need to resolve your doubt before taking action. You're not waiting for certainty. You're acting despite uncertainty, then letting reality show you what happens. Often, action generates the clarity that thinking about the action never could. You commit to showing up. You gather actual data about how things go, and that data either confirms your competence or shows you specifically what needs work. Either outcome is more useful than staying stuck in doubt. Here's what you need to understand as we wrap up. Self-doubt isn't something you failed to outgrow. It's not a sign that you're less capable than other people. It's a fundamental feature of human cognition that exists for good evolutionary reasons. The people who seem supremely confident either experience less doubt than you imagine, or more likely, they've learned to act despite doubt rather than waiting for it to disappear. The strategies we've covered today aren't about building unshakable confidence. They're about building something better, which is genuine self-efficacy grounded in reality. When you distinguish doubt from catastrophizing, when you get specific about what you're uncertain about, when you treat yourself with compassion, when you collect evidence of your own competence, you're not lying to yourself. You're seeing yourself more accurately. Self-doubt will never completely vanish. And that's not a problem to solve. That's reality to accept. What can change is how quickly you recognize doubt when it appears. How skillfully you distinguish productive doubt from destructive doubt, and how consistently you choose to act in the presence of uncertainty rather than waiting for certainty that may never come. So here's your challenge. For the next week, pick one of the 8 strategies we discussed and practice it deliberately. Not all of them. Just one. If you struggle with decision doubt, try the pre-mortem technique on your next decision. If worthiness doubt is your challenge, start the daily 3 competence moments practice. If social doubt drains you, experiment with reality testing your assumptions. And as you practice, ask yourself these questions. What if my self-doubt isn't evidence of inadequacy, but evidence that I'm attempting things that matter? What if the goal isn't to eliminate doubt, but to stop letting doubt make my decisions for me? And what if confidence isn't the prerequisite for action, but the result of taking action despite doubt? Your brain is trying to protect you. Thank it for that. And then show it that you can handle more uncertainty than it thinks you can. That's not recklessness. That's growth. And growth always happens at the edge of what feels certain.